Hello again, and thanks for staying with us for our next talk. Welcome again to the Hydrogen Fuel Cells Batteries Group Exhibit 2018. This afternoon, I'm talking with Mr. Hector Maza, who's the Vice President of Business at Giner ELX Inc. Thank you for joining us. Welcome. Welcome. Thank you.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, thanks. Perfect. So first of all, we'd all like to know a little bit, find out about more about what Giner does.
Sure. Thank you for having me on stage. Giner is a long-time PEM electrolysis company since 1973, so we've been around for 45 years. Recently, we have spun off a couple of companies, one of them being Giner ELX, to focus more deeply into electrolyzers, large electrolysis, always PEM.
Could you please, I didn't mention the name of the topic on purpose, which is actually quite interesting. It was listed as P3RF. You asked for it, we answered. And in fact, that stands for price, performance, productivity, flexibility. You asked for it, we answered. Can you please explain that to us?
Yeah, we don't want to say that many words. I'm always criticizing for speaking fast, so P3 sounded much easier. Well, it's very simple. Everybody cares about price, productivity, and of course flexibility, reliability, etc. So we try to combine all those things into one single solution that would make sense for the customer, the end user, which may be looking for the lowest total cost of ownership of the molecule of hydrogen. We're not into selling equipment, we're selling a service of a molecule of hydrogen delivered. And in some cases, our customers don't really care about the hydrogen either. What they really care about is mobility or energy storage or something that is a service to their own customers.
Is there anything else that you could expand on that apart from what you mentioned?
Yeah, well, as we said, there's 3 vertical markets which are clearly defined, and we like to service them. Sometimes they overlap with each other, and we have projects that have to do more with energy storage some cases, and then that energy storage becomes the carrier over to the fuel cell electric vehicles. As we see California, Germany, Scandinavia, Japan are more and more moving towards this model where they have stranded energy, they move electrolyzers next to a wind turbine, for example, try to reduce the cost associated with direct coupling by reducing some cases maybe the rectifier inside a wind turbine, the rectifier inside our electrolyzer. We're able to subtract it from the equation. By doing so, we reduce maybe $500,000 of cost, direct cost on the CapEx side of the equation, but more interestingly, we also reduce the OpEx side of the equation by becoming more efficient. You know that every time that you go from DC to AC, AC to DC, you're losing 3%, 4% in every exchange. So we take all that out and we go directly DC to DC, which is what our stacks use at the end of the day, and you get a higher efficiency, lower OpEx, therefore lower total cost of ownership for the molecule or for the service you're providing.
And you spoke of the stack. So what can you tell us more about the products that you produce, that Giner produces?
Well, Giner starts, as I said, 45 years ago, doing mostly PEM. Giner has been always an incubator of technologies where we do fuel cells, electrolyzers, regenerative fuel cells, sensors, capacitors, you name it, even lithium-ion batteries. We've done all kinds of studies on that. And eventually we realized that the future was not necessarily linked to lithium, but it was actually linked to a renewable source of energy that could be carried over to the end use. So we started developing small stacks, electrolyzer stacks, PEM stacks, which are the size of your hand or even smaller in some cases. We'll talk maybe about that at some point in the future, the size of a dime. And then we can grow that all the way through a megawatt scale, which very few people are capable of doing in a single module. Our offering today is what we call an Allagash stack, which is essentially a 1 megawatt, true 1 megawatt, single stack electrolyzer, PEM-based, and then you can build on multiples of that. In 2 more years, 2.5 more years, we'll have the next generation, which is a 5 megawatt stack. Why are we growing that fast? Well, we are driven by our customers. If our customers are developing wind turbines which can do 7.5 or 10 megawatts, it would be ludicrous to think that we can achieve 100 megawatts with 100 stacks. It's not feasible. It's too costly. You're going to put 100 lines of electricity, 100 lines of gas. It's not practical. So if you really want to achieve the lower CapEx side of the equation and maintaining the redundancy that you would bring with modules, the best way to go would be to a 5 megawatt module.
How big is the building block on your in your booth?
The building block there, it's a 5 megawatt. That's exactly what it's going to look like, which is very, very compressed. I mean, if the alkaline guys were to show you something that size, you would need the size of this room 2 or 3 times over. So it is about 15 times smaller because we do 15 times the current density inside our stacks. So the typical alkaline solution, which is fantastic, by the way, it's been around for 100 years. It's already at its maximum, I think, efficiencies, would run maybe 300 milliamps per centimeter squared. 200 to 300, we would be running at 3,000. Therefore, we can really condense down and fit into some cases applications like a hydrogen refueling station in Europe, in a European city. You don't have space to put in one of those stacks of the alkaline type, so you have to move over to PEM.
Thank you. And we'll touch a little bit again on about the partnerships. Your company is very active in partnerships. Can you tell us a little bit about that with government and non-government?
Sure. Well, with government, we've worked with Department of Defense, Department of Energy, NIH, NASA for the longest of times, multiple decades already. We're proud to say we're probably the only American electrolyzer company left today. It hasn't been acquired by Europeans or Chinese or some other. We still work with the Department of Defense with the nuclear submarines, providing their electrolyzer stacks. We work with NASA on the electrolyzers and fuel cells that would go into International Space Station. But those are the expensive projects. When we come here and we look at all the industry, we're really looking to the lower cost of ownership that we can achieve. And for that, we have to partner in different countries. We have distributors in the Benelux area, with a close partnership with Hydro. We have representatives, of course, in Germany, in India, in Brazil, in Bulgaria, you name it. We keep on making this kind of relationships work, where they might have started as an integrator at first, and eventually they developed that into a total region where they actually service customers. We are not exclusive to only sell to one person. We are happy to sell to whomever wants a building block for the electrolyzer generation. So we would sell electrolyzer stacks in some cases to our competitors. When they have a need for PEM and they don't know how to go about it, we work with them. We think this market is still very small in terms of the supply that we have compared to the big demand that's coming. So we have to really partner up with everybody we can. In this case, just recently when we did the spin-off of ELX out of Giner, we actually took in investors that were also an electrolyzer company per se. I mean, we've talked about it in the past, but formerly Abengoa Hydrogen or Abengoa Hidrogeno had spun off also H2B2, which became a minority stake investor into ELX. And sometimes that's a little confusing for some customers because they say, well, you were acquired. No, we're not acquired. We have partners, and partners invest sometimes in the technology to grow it faster.
Yes. But still, you were not bought out. You were just, it's more of a partnership.
Yes, of course. Okay. Yeah. No, we maintain U.S. ownership. Mm-hmm. The majority stake position has always been a U.S. Closed-held, privately held company. We don't trade in the stock market. We're not dictated what to do by third parties, and we certainly are not owned by a foreign entity. We are owned by mostly the Giner family in this case, and some other small investors that have minority stake positions, just like H2B2.
Trying to keep it within the family, correct? Within the house.
Yes.
What projects are you working on at the moment, or do you have coming up that you want to share?
Well, as you know, there's a lot of projects that we work on a daily basis, but and a lot of them have NDAs. But I can talk a little bit about projects in islands which are 100% renewable, going from a wind turbine or a photovoltaic field in the order of 1 to 2 megawatts. Actually, it's 2.4 megawatts. Then we translate that into hydrogen that gets stored, and then it goes reconverted into electricity, basically power to power. Those are islands that we're working on right now, which is not very far away from here. We have projects in California, large projects of large stations where you are doing 4, 5, 6 megawatts. We have another project brewing now, about to close, for 200 fuel cell buses. And that one I really can't say much about, but it is very large. It needs 16 megawatts of electrolysis. We're working actively, again, with a series of suppliers from storage tanks to compressors to many other areas. Although we have our own electrochemical compression in-house, which we've been working in for the last 12, 13 months now, and it's a 36-month project where there's no moving parts, and you have the highest efficiency so far seen in electrochemical compression, going from ambient pressure all the way to 900 bar. I think we talked about that last year when we were starting the project. We're 6 months ahead of schedule in terms of the deliverables that we have, the milestones that we have to meet. We're happy to say Department of Energy has been a great supporter all along, and hopefully more so now that we are kind of one of the left men standing still in the US. Hopefully we'll keep on having the support of the Department of Energy in the US. But we also like to partner up with whomever has needs for very demanding applications. So other projects that we have, I mentioned before, the direct coupling. We have a partner in Hydro, which is in the Netherlands, which is doing what is being called the hydrogen turbine. Hydro, I don't think it's a secret, it's been working now with Lagave for some time, and of course by extension with Enercon. So we love to do these kind of challenging applications, which require us to take out pieces of the electrolyzer and really customize a solution to service a specific customer. In that case, we're going from a 2 megawatt demonstration project to a follow-up, another 2 megawatt project, which now is becoming 5 to 10 stacks in the making for the next couple of years, which is very interesting for us because it's going to demonstrate the highest efficiency ever seen from wind all the way to mobility.
Thank you for that. What are your target markets coming up as far as energy storage and such?
Well, energy storage, as you know, there's many ways to achieve that, and one of the best ways to do it is today Germany has the virtue of having salt caverns and many other ways to store it, just like the dedicated gas lines. We have in Leipzig, we have one running from Linde, which could be well used. We have the HyPost project with one of our other partners that could well be a great demonstration of how to inject direct hydrogen in just a dedicated line of hydrogen in that eastern side of Germany. But there's also many other projects which are trying to inject hydrogen into the natural gas line, and therefore essentially all your gas line infrastructure services as a very big energy storage medium.
Thank you very much for that. Do you have any questions at the moment for Mr. Maza? Not yet. I just want to ask you two last questions.
Sure.
Are you guys profitable? Giner profitable?
Of course we are. This is, I think that's one big distinguisher that always goes unmentioned, but I always try to make a point of mentioning out here. We are slightly different than a lot of our competitors, in which we don't do forward pricing. We're not allowed to. Essentially what we do is we have to make at least $1 or €1 in every single transaction. We cannot allow ourselves to lose money. A lot of our competitors have a different philosophy. They would like to do forward pricing, and they're allowed by their stockholders to do that in order to gain more market share. We just don't do that. We rather separate ourselves from that opportunity and go for a profitable opportunity every time. So I'm glad to say that for the last 45 years that we've been in existence, we have been profitable every single year.
Never been in the red.
Never been in the red.
Excellent, thank you. And one last question. What would you like for people to take away from our conversation today that are important points for Giner?
Well, I like to think of ourselves as, and sorry for the reference to a different brand, but I like to think of ourselves as the Giner inside, just like the Intel inside of computers. Many people make computers, many people may need a specific chip to run their computers. We love to help out in whoever wants to make their own computer, in this case their own electrolyzer system. We will provide you the means, the technology, to go ahead and customize it whichever way you want. If you have the capabilities of building your own system, we will help out. If you don't have those capabilities, we will gladly bring along one of our partners to help you out with the integration, or we will carry on with a partner the integration for you and deliver a turnkey solution. We are not in competition with any of our customers. We would love our customers to take care of themselves, but not always they have their technical expertise of gas management, hydrogen knowledge, and certifications, etc., in a specific region. So we bring in always partners from Spain, France, Italy, Germany, India, US, wherever it may happen to be the opportunity. So if you want to take away something, we're the Giner inside instead of the Intel inside for this industry, hopefully. That's what
so Giner takes care of their client from beginning to end. Basically, you make it happen.
We can exactly. We can do a turnkey solution if that's what's desired, or we will enable them to take care of themselves so that we bring the technology that we've been developing for the last 45 years.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Hector Maza, Vice President of Business at Giner ELX Inc. And again, the topic today was P3RF, and that stands for Price, Performance, Productivity, Flexibility. You asked for it, we answered. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us. Thanks. Thank you. Up next, we have Dr. Martin Mueller, who's the head process engineering, electrolysis, and he's with the ELX Research Center. Thank you very much.